So I had to let my employees go, which was super hard. That was June of last year, which really was so upsetting because they were great employees. They didn't deserve that. I've always kind of given with my heart. And so it was just such a hard decision. So I let them go. A month later, I found out that my partner of 5 years had stepped out on me, and I basically had to make a decision. I could have fixed it, but why after I supported him financially for 5 years? I just was like, how am I here?
Are you ready to transform your life? This is a no-nonsense show helping immigrants like you create generational wealth, even while working full-time. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Saket Jain.
Welcome back, Migrate to Wealth listeners. Today, I have a treat for you. Well, it's not that kind of a treat. It's a story that is very, very inspiring. It's a story that it's a perfect hero's journey. I would have been much more happy to share that person that we're going to bring on show today is on the tail end of that journey, and everything is going to be happy. The life's good after that. But unfortunately, we're catching her in the middle of the journey, which is she is going through a challenging time, and then she's trying to persevere and get out of it. That's really what I thought is, I think her background, we'll talk about her background as well, but more importantly, her journey is probably most of our journey. Right? That's where you will be able to relate it, because even if it's not the exact journey, chances are you have elements of that journey in your own life's journey, or you know somebody else who has that journey. So hopefully you're able to draw inspiration. You're able to draw more value and also get inspired that when life beats you down, there's only two paths. You can give in or give up. I think I said it wrong. You can give in or fight back. And Toni Marinucci, who is going to be our guest today, is the one who will never fight. She is fighting back and fighting back. Toni, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I love your story, love the energy. And I'm sure the audience will love you as well. So, Toni, before we actually get started, let's ask a question. What does Migrate to Wealth mean to you? The name of our show. What does that mean to you?
You know, it's interesting because I was reflecting on it before because the title seemed very catchy to me. And of course, I think the first thing when we think of wealth is money. But then as I've been, explained to you before we started recording, I'm kind of going through this difficult time right now where I'm realizing that migrating to wealth, it is a journey. But within that journey, it's understanding that wealth is more than money. Although money is important because it can get you things and it can help, improve the quality of your life. Wealth is truly being healthy. It's being happy. It's having, good relationships. And it's really, I think, most importantly, knowing who you are and feeling comfortable with who you are and being able to extend that to the world. And that, to me, is the journey that I hope everyone chooses to live every single day, is just cultivating a positive relationship with themselves so that they can have a positive relationship with others.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Toni, because I think it's more often than not, we see that if I have X dollars, Y dollars, or if I accomplish A, B, C, whatever it could be, for some it's material, for some it's something else, then I'll be happy. But I think what you said was the equation is actually reversed. You are happy, everything else around you will happen you want it to happen. If you're actually unhappy and you're waiting for somebody else, something else or somebody else to help you make happy, it's just not going to happen. Because you can't control what Toni does to Saket. You can control what Saket does to Saket. You can definitely control that. So if you focus on that element, it's much easier to transition into the wealth, because then your definition of wealth changes, right?
Exactly.
You're not comparing what kind of car Toni drives. You're comparing yourself with, why is Toni so happy? Let me chase happiness rather than chase money, because most people, even after them, and we know we heard stories, even if you don't know these people, that even billionaires are unhappy, like Robin Williams.
Yeah,
there's so many stories like that. Unfortunately, the so-called successes, if you look at from their life externally, but internally they're not that happy, right? So I love that. I love that definition. Toni, where are you on that journey of wealth making? Give a little bit glimpse into. I know your story has a lot of twists and turns. So, and again, to the extent you feel comfortable, you draw the boundary. You draw the boundary wherever you need to draw it. So if you ask a question, you're not going to offend me by not answering it. So we're going to try and go as deep as we can.
Okay. Well, Here it is. So let's start with the highlights because then it comes just a, spoiler alert, it comes tumbling down and I have a tower moment. But before that, I was really living the dream. I went to school to be a registered dietitian. I have a master's in nutrition. Before I even got my degree, I was blogging about nutrition because I was super passionate about it because I myself grew up overweight and insecure. I was teased about my weight and I was made to feel less than. I was made to feel that if I didn't lose the weight, I could never be, happy, or I could never find
Right.
a partner. And so I put my value in my body, I put my value in my weight, and I felt like I could only be happy and healthy, and kind of speaking to what we were just talking about, unless I lost the weight. But I
Right.
actually learned that restriction wasn't the answer, it was actually part of the problem. And I actually had to stop trying to change my body from a place of hate and instead had to change it from a place of acceptance and from a place of love and gratitude. And I really needed to shift my mindset around it so that I could, just feel good in my body and my skin, whatever weight or body size that ended up being at. And when I did that, I realized, like, oh my God, I just found the secret sauce that everyone thought they were searching for and looking for, that magic pill and potion to weight loss.
Yeah.
It's non-existent, but I actually found something special. I found the magic in learning to love yourself from the inside out. And so I went on, I got my degree, I had my blog, it's called Tips with Toni. And for years, literally over a decade, I had been blogging. And then, about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to turn the blog into a business. I started coaching people on helping them heal their relationship with food and their body, finding confidence within themselves. And I was really successful. I had an entire team. I did a TEDx talk in 2019. In 2020, when kind of the world was crashing down because of COVID, believe it or not, because I already had an established trust and rapport with my clientele, my business did very well.
Mhm.
And it was why I was like overwhelmed, because at the time it was just me and an assistant. And I was like super overwhelmed. And so I decided to I hired 2 dietitians. I had interns. I had an entire staff. At first it was great. I had my time back. I had my energy back. It allowed me the time to write my very first book, which is an extension of my TEDx talk called Once Upon a Diet. And like, things were amazing. I moved into this luxury building. I had a 3-bedroom apartment. I had a partner at the time. His daughter was living with us. Like, I had it all. I felt like I had
Mm.
everything. And then, I guess like post-COVID things just started to not be as easy. And I'm sorry if that, like, I have things that for a while seemed pretty easy for me to be successful. Things just started to slowly start to feel harder, like really hard. And it was like the things that used to work weren't working anymore. I used to invest
Yeah.
in mentors and coaches, and they actually were really helpful for me. Fortunately, I had never been burned by a mentor or coach prior. But then I made bad business decisions. I invested in people that were not trustworthy. I wasted a lot of money on stupid things. And, things just weren't easy anymore. And I felt like I was trying everything I possibly could to kind of keep the business up the ground. But like long story short, a year after COVID, I made the same amount of money, but I had crazy expenses. So I didn't really have much money to take home for myself. The second year after that, I was like, where is the money? There's no money. I can barely make payroll. Like, how am I going to
Mm.
keep this? So I had to let my employees go, which was super, super hard. That was June of last year, which really was so upsetting because they were great employees. They didn't deserve that. I've always kind of given with my heart. And so it was just such a hard decision. So I let them go. A month later, I found out that my partner of 5 years had stepped out on me, and I basically had to make a decision. I could have fixed it, but why, after I supported him financially for 5 years? I just was
Yeah.
like, how am I here? Like, I've been taking care of
Right.
everybody else but myself. It's okay for everybody else to have money in their pocket and everybody else to like be okay, but I'm drowning. Like, I'm facing eviction. I literally couldn't keep my head above water. I was like, what am I doing? So after I let my team go, I broke up with my partner, which, by the way, I wrote a book about the parallels between dieting, dating, and romantic relationships. So the
Mm.
fact that like this happened to me even though I've never claimed to be an expert when it comes to relationships, it's part of my journey and part of my story. I say I'm an expert in nutrition, but when it comes to relationships, we go through the same struggles. Like,
Yeah.
I was very open about that, but I kind of like thought I had finally like found that answer. And then I was like, nope, slapped in the face. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of start over. I had really no choice, but I did have a choice. I'm very blessed. I have my parents to lean back on. I'm 33 years old, but I am living in my parents' basement right now, which never thought that would happen. And I'm literally rebuilding. I'm back, just me. Just me. I don't have any staff at all. It's just me. I'm doing nutrition coaching still. I had to really make pivots because just the way the world is just different. I was always like a cash-paced business. Now I'm taking insurance. I'm trying to figure that aspect out. And then in the meantime of all this hustle and bustle, I decided to get my real estate license, and I'm actually really liking that. So I'm just like, right now, I'm just being honest, like things have just taken a full tumble.
Yeah.
And I think at first, I was devastated. At first, I was the amount of shame and God, just like complete distress of it all. Like, and when you're really in it, it's so hard to even express, like just
Right.
absolute devastation and feeling like a failure. And I've taken a lot of healing. I still cry sometimes. I still go through my moments of like, how did I get here? Like, how am I at 33? I thought I was going to have it all together. My goal is to have my own talk show. I thought I would have that by now. Like, I thought I'd have more staff on my team. I thought I'd be like speaking on big stages across the United States and America, or outside of the US even. And it's like, here I am. I feel like I'm starting from zero. Like I am completely at ground zero. However, now I'm looking at as this opportunity to rebuild and to do it again and to do it again better and bigger than I probably could have ever imagined. And so that's why I wasn't going to talk about it on podcasts. I wasn't even going to talk about it on my blog and stuff like that, or on my own podcast. But honestly, I feel like I'd be robbing people of the true story behind what migrating to wealth looks like. So I appreciate you for having me here, because this is it. Like I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the thick of it. And I know I'm going to get out of it. I don't know how. I'm still like kind of figuring it out. But I know that this isn't the end of my story. And that is like what I'm gripping onto with all of the little strength that I have left.
Thank you first of all, thank you for being so open about it. It's easy to share your successes, and it's very hard to be raw about your failures. So first of all, thank you for being open, because I think more people hear about it, and everyone hears about overnight successes, and one day you will become an overnight success. Is that but the learning and the insights and the teaching moments are these hardships, right? Where your life's just breaking you down to remake you. We just don't see it, right? When it's happening, and it happens to, I know it's easy for me to say it because I'm not in it with you, but anytime you have had a tough life, anytime, and if you reflect back on that, and once you pass through it, reflect back, chances are you're going to thank life for that experience, because you have become a better person. The process is hard. I'm not saying process is easy. It's never been easy for us. It'll never will be easy, no matter who you are. So the process is hard. Toni, let's actually, if again that's okay, I'm going to ask you more questions around that same realm that we're in right now. So when you reflect back, right? I think you said that you saw a lot of success, and it seemed like your coaching and mentors helped you. But it also seems, and I may be reading into it, so I could be wrong, that you bought a lot of revenue because you spent a lot of money to potentially buy the revenue, and at some point, that trick doesn't work that well, because at some point, either you don't have more money or the buying opportunity has gone away, because most of the people may have figured it out, right? So help me understand what was going at that time when you say that your expenses were not down, but was your expense pattern changed? Did it change in 2020 from 2020 to 2021? Or were you still putting the same expenses? Like give us a little bit more information if you can.
So a couple things I would say. So from 2020 and 2021, I made the same exact, not the same, but pretty much the same amount of money, but my expenses like tripled. Like I was living in a renting a 1-bedroom apartment by myself. And then me and my partner and his daughter, to be honest, paid for a luxury 3-bedroom apartment. That in itself was like 3 to 4 times X the amount of rent and stuff like that. Then I had payroll on top of that. But at the time I was profiting so much in 2020 that it was like, I can do this. I can do this. Like, it's not a problem. And my thought was, I have a team. So now I'm going to be able to make even more money because I'm going to have more people. So now the profit or is going to be even more, or whatever it was. And I mean, there's so many things I definitely didn't my employees were incredible. It was the way I hired was wrong. Like
Right.
I hired with them with the idea of like, I'll take care of the marketing and you guys be the dietitians.
Sure.
But I need people to market for me,
Definitely.
especially because, like, even though, yes, I like feel like I got a marketing degree by just self-teaching myself for 10 years. I didn't go to school for marketing. It's not my passion. I didn't become successful for marketing. Became successful because I'm really good at what I do. And I would remove myself as the coach completely. But the way I've helped people
so you
is
were
by
face of
coaching
the
them.
brand, but you were not. People are not engaging with you.
Correct. I
So it
became
kind of
like
like
the
felt like, and again, I'm putting words in your mouth. So I have
go
no
for
idea.
it's okay.
Click and bait, right? That we came here for Tony, but we haven't talked to Tony. We're talking to Tony's team, but we want
Correct.
Tony.
Correct. And so like and I tried to be in the mix as much as I could by like instead of one-to-one coaching, I would do like group stuff, but I just like couldn't. It just still there was something missing. But that was one layer of it. The other
Yeah.
layer is honestly, I still struggle with this, and I'm actually after we are done recording with this, I'm meeting with my new accountant because I'm like I feel like the reason why I haven't been able to break the success code quite yet and get to the next level is because I'm not prepared for it. What I mean by that is like I still like I'm not the best at managing money. I know like there's been stages in my life where I can make a lot of money, but then I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to put it. I don't know how to organize it. I think, oh, it's there, so spend it. Like that's kind of like the psychology that I'm currently working through and working on because I know that God, the universe, I believe in God, but I don't know everybody doesn't. But like God is going to bless me with this new amount of abundance when I'm ready for it. But I'm still learning. And I'm glad he didn't trust me with more money because then I'd be even in more debt. I'd be like worse in the hole. You know what I mean? So I'm actually grateful that this is happening for me now rather than when I became the millionaire that I, hope to be, not because I care about money numbers in that sense, but because I believe that I can. And I believe that will help me help other people.
And you will, Tony. It's a matter of time because if you've already seen a pattern once, at least in your mind, you know the mental model.
Yeah, exactly.
The good thing is you didn't go too deep into it. You saw the success, but you also saw the success decline right away.
Yeah,
It was not like you saw it after 10 years.
Correct.
Because that decline would have been much more deeper. Here you saw it. So coming back to it, I don't think it's going to be challenging, but I think what you're doing is actually great. Because what you're saying is that I'm not just going to start it. You could hustle your way into, I'm going to start it, and this time I'm going to do right and this and that. But you're actually breaking it down very systematically saying, I don't understand finances or numbers, I should say.
Numbers,
or money, right? Or whatever. Yeah. However, people have different. I'm going to break it down. I'm not analytical when it comes to finances. So instead of me learning it, I'm going to create a leverage and I'm going to hire somebody who's better than me in numbers. That's probably the wisest thing. I think people can say that at least you have an awareness what you're not good at, right?
Yeah.
And you're willing to accept that weakness and say, I'm going to move past that weakness because now I've identified it. I have only two ways. I can spend years learning it and getting comfortable with it and hopefully develop a passion towards it. Or I can hire somebody else or bring somebody else in my team who has that passion already.
Yeah.
Right. And then they take care of you managing them, but they take care of the nitty-gritties of that. So I love that. What else are you doing differently as you start looking at the new life right now?
This is a good question. What I'm really focusing on right now, and once again, I understand that I'm in a position that's different than many because I fortunately do have the support of my family right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take this opportunity for granted. Where in the past I may have taken certain opportunities for granted, I am choosing to obviously think things through. I think that's a big one. So I used to be very impulsive. That's how I got into, not going to lie, the impulsivity has helped me in the beginning with success because I think a lot of people, right, we pause we overthink things and we don't take action. I've never been that person. I'm always like, let's take action. I'll figure it out later. And this time it got me in trouble. So this time I'm taking it for, I'm really thinking things through. And I'm trying to really think about, okay, if I do this, this will happen. If I don't do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. And really trying to see all my options, but not staying stuck in overwhelm either. So kind of finding the balance within that.
Mhm.
And then within the rebuilding phase, I mean, I think it always goes back to like the basics of just, if it doesn't feel good to me, I don't want it. Like I'm really
Yeah.
focusing on the basic things that I preach every day, which is like getting back. Fitness is super important to me. It's something that I value. So like just getting back into the fitness makes me feel good. Spending time with people I love. Like honestly, like I'm not even, I know the business stuff is going to work itself out, especially when it comes to just me as an individual. If I don't have a team, like, and because I know how to do that. That I've always been successful at. Like I've always been able, like I can make a good living just working for me and only me and being a
Right.
solopreneur, which is fine. And maybe I stay there. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But I do feel like before I can do that, I just have to build a solid foundation. So that's really what I'm working on, is building a solid foundation from a business perspective, but more importantly, a personal perspective. You know, making sure I'm sleeping well, making sure I'm hydrating well, making sure I'm moving my body with intention, challenging myself with my physical fitness, and then, you know, eating balanced. And, you know, fortunately I've healed that part of me for a long time. So that's just something I do now. I just eat well. But for someone who's listening to this where they're feeling like really stuck, like that would probably be the best place to start. And then you can go beyond that.
Love that, Tony. This is a golden nugget episode, because there's very few times where we hear that much specificity on how would you move forward. Let's actually also go back, Tony. When did you realize things are not going to work out in the business? Like, what was the trigger point? What was the trigger
But I never
point?
actually wanted to believe it.
I think that's exactly what my hunch was. So help me understand. Did you see the glimpse of it in 2020,
I had
but you
so many
delayed it?
opportunities to redo it and do it better. Oh God. First of all, on a personal level, me and my partner probably should have broken up 10 times, literally. And we've had opportunities to break up 10 times. Like literally, like that in itself, because listen, I put myself here, but it does take two to tango. So
Yeah.
we have to remember that. So like and I used to listen to podcasts about how important it was when you choose your life partner. And, you know, if you can't talk finances with them, you got to be able to be on the same page. Like you got to feel like all that. So that in itself, you know, I probably should have let go a long time ago. I actually talk about this in my book. So I encourage you guys. My book is really good. I'm not just saying that. It's a #1 bestseller, and it actually, like, everyone tells me it's like a quick read, and there's just a lot of healthy nuggets, no pun intended. But basically, like, or should I say pun intended? So in my book, I talk about planters and bouncers. A planter is someone that, like, you know, when things are going well and then they stop going well, they are just going to fixate on when it was well. And they are just going to continue to fight for when it was good. And they are going to, no matter how crappy the circumstances, no matter how, excuse my French, but like shitty things are, they are just going to like make it work. Like no matter what they're planting themselves there. They are like, I'm going to see this through. I'm going to force it. It has to work. Like it has to work. Whereas we have bouncers, which bouncers are kind of like, you know, it starts working and then all of a sudden like it doesn't. And the second it stops working, they completely bounce. They're like, nope, not going to try, too hard. No, thank you. Right. And so we need to kind of find like the balance between that. But why I'm bringing this up is because I am a planter through and through. I see hard work and I'm like, let's try harder. I feel like it, no matter what it is, I feel like I decided that this is happening, so I'm going to make it. And so although we know that like that is the key to certain successful people, we also have to remember that there needs to be flexibility and it might not be the way that you expected. And if you stay so firm on it needs to look this way and happen this way, you're going to miss the opportunity of where it could have been and how it could have actually worked out for you better. So I say that to say that like I planted myself in this idea that this is going to work, both my relationship, both the business, like, but then even I hired 2 dietitians right off the bat. I probably should have just hired one and tested it before I hired 2. And then that second dietitian actually decided within like 6 months or so that she was going to actually pursue her own business, which I'm happy for and was happy about it. And it was then that I probably should have just been like, okay, great. And then just kept the one. But nope, I hired another one right away. Like I shouldn't have done that.
Why did you, Toni, if I may ask you, why did you?
Because I think at the time, even though things weren't working, I really also think I was also burnt out. You know, I have to remember, like, I had been doing nutrition coaching and I've still been doing it for now. At that point, it was like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, and I had gotten I was pursuing to get my real estate license. So in my mind, I was like, I don't have time to coach. I
Worry
have
about
to
this
just
business.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to start a new career. I'm trying to
Yeah.
start, and I want to say new, like a dual career. Like I kind
Sure.
of was like, but I still need someone to run mine while I pursue this one. So my brain was just trying to, make it work, whatever. And but you live and you learn. We're here now.
Yeah, I think it's what you fell into, Toni. I believe it's probably a very typical pattern of working. You were in the business. You had to be on the business before you moved on to real estate or any other venture you had. I think you really thought that you had the systems, the procedures, the team, and everything else that you can remove yourself from the nitty gritties, but it seemed like your team wasn't ready there, or your systems and processes were not there. I don't know what was going on. I think it can see that it's definitely a possibility that, and a lot of entrepreneurs do that. Not just you. It's not a knock on you. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're an employee, if you're a W-2 somewhere, you're probably doing the same things. And if you got a team underneath of you, you feel you're empowering them, so you go move on to bigger and better pastures, and the team crumbles, right? For whatever reason, they crumble. And it could be a variety of reasons. Was not right, you didn't provide them enough support, or they were not ready for the amount of load or responsibility. There could be a variety of reasons, and that's probably 20 different podcasts together. Why teams sometimes fail. And it's an important reflection. So thank you again. I keep thanking you because I think this is a great episode for that regards, because a lot of people are falling in that trap. But to the same point, I love your definition of planters and what was the second? Bouncers. I like that analogy because there is a point where you say it's no longer going to work.
Yeah, it's like I use in my TEDx talk, I talk about Cinderella's stepsisters, and like that's why it's called, my book is Once Upon a Diet, my TEDx talk's Once Upon a Diet, because it's kind of a lot of the parallels between like Disney and just so many things. But point being is, like, Cinderella's stepsisters, like the shoe was never going to fit them. Like they tried to jam it, but like they weren't meant to marry the prince like Cinderella was. So you can try so hard, but like it's never going to fit. So the sooner you realize that, the better off you are.
Perfect. Which is, I always say that the first thing everyone has to do, either you're an employer or an entrepreneur, doesn't matter. You have to get your life in alignment, right? Because if your life is not aligned, if your goal is to marry a prince, and you are you're not surrounding yourself in that crowd, it's going to be very hard. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but it's going to be very hard, right? If your goal is to have a successful business, but you're not comfortable, we'll use you as an example, and just as an example, doesn't mean it can't change. If you're not comfortable with numbers, you can't run a business without understanding numbers, period. Right? Because business is all numbers, because it's very black and white. Either it works or it doesn't work.
Right.
Either you have the revenue or you don't have the revenue. There's no, I kind of sort of have the revenue. No, there's none. Unfortunately, business is black and white, and which is what number is. And numbers are, the data is what's going to tell you if a business is working or not working. And same with me, right? When I started up, I wanted to scale so fast that I had like 5-7 people. I'm like, what are they going to do? Well, my mentality was, if I have the team, I'll be pressured to find business. I'm like, that's just wrong. So to them, to me, to my family, because I'm just creating additional stress. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hire when I'm ready to hire, period. And when I'm ready to hire is when I don't have enough hours in the day, or enough, when I'm getting to the bed bone tired, that means I'm ready. But for me, now that could mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. At that time when I was thinking about hiring, is that what do I need to do differently? What needs to happen before I pull the trigger? Not if I pull the trigger, hopefully things will happen. It's what needs to happen before I pull the trigger. Just I had to reverse the equation. So I think for a lot of us, it's probably in the same. Look at your life situation. If you're in the situation where you're thinking about pulling a trigger, ask yourself a question: is your life ready for that trigger to be pulled?
Because and one other thing I will say is that, because like when I did hire, there's certain people that stand out in my mind that were like above and beyond amazing. And then there were others that maybe need a little bit more
Yeah.
coaching. And everyone can be coached, but I do feel that when I do hire again, a couple of things that I know I'm going to do, I'm only going to have the best of the best, because otherwise it's not worth my time and energy. They have to do it better than me. Otherwise I'll just do it myself. Like, that's why I'm going to hire that. And the other thing is, I actually have someone who still helps me with like my podcast editing. And he had mentioned he also does things like for, my website, is completely outdated because I haven't had the funds to redo that, blah, blah, blah. So, I slowly am starting to have him like kind of do other things. And I'm already kind of feeling like, how great would it be if I had one person that did multiple things rather than having to hire multiple people for each thing. Like, if I can have my web guy be my podcast guy, be my editing guy, be my, like, how cool is that? Right. So I would say that like, that is something that's starting to become more clear as I'm rebuilding, is that when I do hire again, it's going to be a lean team, but they're going to be a badass lean team. Like, each person's going to do a lot of things, and they're going to do a lot of things really well, and they're going to do them better than ever I could.
No, I love that, Toni. Toni, this is great. Like, I think I can talk to you forever, because there's so many nuggets that we can draw, and I'm already thinking about how am I going to make some change in my own life just by this conversation. So thank you again for being on the podcast, Toni.
Thank you for having me.
In the interest of time, I'm going to shift toward the last segment of our podcast here. First question really is, you're fairly young, but if you were to look back at your life, or maybe ask the question differently, there's a 20-year-old Toni somewhere listening to the show. What's one advice you would give to that Toni?
Be patient, don't rush, and allow it to happen when the timing is meant to happen. Like, put your head down, get to work, do the best you can, show up for yourself every day, be the best version of you possibly can be. But like honestly, I'm still learning this right now, but you have to just trust that it's going to happen when it's meant to happen.
Correct. And
continue to just look for answers, and the best answer is usually within you. But yeah, that's what I would say. Be patient, get to work.
Awesome. Toni, coming from a place for vulnerability, I'm going to ask you one more question, which is probably you have to dig a little bit deeper on that, is where do you feel humanity as a whole has a gap right now? Where should humanity migrate towards?
Connection. I think we are so disconnected. I think we need to get back into earth. Like, I think we need to be outside. I think we need to take a break from screens. I appreciate you guys listening to this, but I think you need to like get in your own, listen to yourself more. Like, I think we're missing, humanity is missing being human. I'm sorry, but like everything is just so, there's all these like filters and glam, and I think everyone deserves to feel beautiful, but like you got to learn to find that beauty within yourself. And I think we're missing connection with self, and connection with others, and connection with God or the universe.
Thank you, Toni. This is great. Toni, where can people find you?
Instagram is probably the best place, at tips_with_Toni with an I, or I have the Tips with Toni podcast, which is starting to go through a little bit of a transition. So you're going to hear a whole lot of everything, health, wellness, but most importantly, just like life and motivation, inspiration, helping you to cultivate that stronger connection within you.
Love it. Toni, thank you again for being on the show. Really appreciate it. For all my listeners, thank you again for tuning in. Hopefully this story, I know it was a very different kind of episode we did today, but it was really needed, especially as we come into the February. The New Year resolution is still pretty hot, right? You're still thinking you have 12 months out, life's good, but life can change any moment. So we have to be ready for that, and we have to build the muscle when the life is good, to handle the challenges when life is not so good. So hopefully we got value from this. Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you again, Toni.
Thank you.
If you got value from this episode, you might consider sharing this content with a friend. But most importantly, be sure to take action on what you've learned. One way you can take the next step is to connect directly with Socket on an investor call. That link is waiting for you in the show notes below.